Good morning everyone. Welcome all of you. Please take your seat. No evidence of dances from the earliest time exist. However, some tribal and folk dances performed in remote regions probably still contain elements from prehistoric times. Among the dances recorded by the University of Fine Arts in the 1950 were the Leng Trot, dance of the stag, and Snang Tonson, dance of the wild oxen, originally believed to have been an hunting dance, and the Cha Yam, a masked dance performed to gongs and drums before religious processions. These were often performed as part of Khmer New Year's festivals and featured cosmic verses. According to the International Encyclopedia of Dance, some of the folk dances have probably been in existence since prehistory. The animist spirits is often subdued by the performance of a spirit dance. Several early dances have Indian influences. The Shiva cult has been in evidence in Cambodia since the AD 4th century. The Peacock of Dursad, theatrical version of a folk dance, has been performed by Cambodian refugees in the United States. Khmer classical dance derived from Indian court dance, which traces its origin to the Apsaras of Hindu mythology, heavenly female nymphs who were born to dance for the gods. The traditions of Thailand and Java also influenced the music and dance of Cambodia. In classical Cambodian dance, women dressed in brightly colored costumes with elaborate headdresses perform slow, graceful movements accompanied by a percussive ensemble known as the Pin Piet. Pin Piet orchestras include drums, gongs, and bamboo saxophones. Classical Cambodian dance is similar to Thai dance and not very old. Many dances date back to the reign of King Ang Dion, who ruled Cambodia during a revival of Khmer nationalization in the 1840s and 1850s. At that time, Khmer-based Thai dances were given Khmer features inspired by temple carvings. In the 1930s, Cambodian dancers employed by the royal court were famous enough that they participated in international tours. One of the most popular dances, the Robam, is a group dance created in the 1950s and 1960s during another period of Cambodia nationalism. Inspired by folk dances and classical court dances, it is performed to the accompaniment of horns, flutes, drums, cymbals, and wooden clackers. Traditionally, all the dancers were females, with women even dancing the male roles. The most well known of these dances, the Apsara dance, features movements inspired by images of celestial nymphs at Angkor temples and costumes inspired by images of princesses there. Ruang are narrative dance dramas. They are usually based on the Remkar, the Khmer version of the Hindu epic, the Ramayana. They feature an era of gods, monkeys, soldiers, demons, mermaids, and candle dancers. Many of the dancers wear masks. The dramas feature battle scenes, chases, and journeys interspread with lyrical dance performed to the poetic songs. The narrative dances have traditionally featured a chorus that sings Khmer poetic text that convey the story of the narrative to the music of the tuned gongs, xylophones, drums, and oboes. One of the most well known court dances in the Monoshanchetna. In a classic scene from the dance drama Muni Mekhala, the water goddess Mekhala flees her enemy Rem Isom, the storm spirit. Elements of classical Cambodian dance. The elements which are essential of traditional Cambodian dance styles are suppleness and grace, with a basic vocabulary of meaningful gestures, movements and poses. Classical Cambodian dance is a deeply conservative form. In 1906, it was almost exclusively a function of the court. The dancers lived at the royal palace and performed at the king's pleasure, mostly for dignitaries and royal rituals like marriages or funerals. Classical dances were not born of a single artistic mind. They were retellings of communal myths commissioned by the royal family and created by committee. Cambodia's dance was a tradition with a precise choreographic language that excludes any improvisation or variation. The delicately ornate costumes and very gradual motion and subtle gestures of the hands, feet and head are drawn from figures carved in Angkor Wat. At the heart of classical form is the Apsara, the joyful, almost wanton dancer whose images are everywhere. The graceful movements of the Apsara dancers, adorned with gold headdresses and silken tunics and skirts, are carved on the walls of many of the temples at Angkor. Estimates are that there were 3,000 Apsara dancers in the 12th century in the court of King Jayavarman VII. Apsara dancing is one of the two elements of classical ballet, the other being today dancing, the depiction of early myths. Many of the dances involve performing a fragment of the Ramayana, the ancient Indian epic that is 1.5 times as long as the Odyssey. Others are based on the legendary battles and mythical sages carved in bas reliefs on the walls of the temples of Angkor, including the churning of the sea of milk, the great battle between gods and demons for the holy liquid that gives immortality. There are 100 dances and dramas. History of the Cambodian royal dance troupe. To what extent the dance tradition of the Angkor is reflected in the classical dance of today is not exactly known. The Thai influence on the hand is clearly recognizable in the court tradition of Cambodian dance. During the period when Cambodia was a vassal state of the Thais, the bonds between Thai and Cambodian courts were close. During the period of the French Protectorate, Cambodian classical dance, which was much admired by the French colonists, remained an integral part of the court's tradition. Dance performances were also frequently staged for foreign dignitaries. During the reign of King Norodom, the royal dance troupe consisted of some 500 dancers divided into several sub-troupes. There were also several Thai dancers in the troupe, and thus Thai dance and the genres of dance drama were implanted in Cambodia to be later developed in a slightly different way than in neighboring Thailand. During the reign of King Sisowat, the royal dancers visited Europe for the first time. The group and the king himself went to the colonial exhibition in Marseilles. The extremely successful visit aroused general interest in Cambodian dance, and several Western artists were generally inspired by it. The French sculptor Auguste Rodin painted sketches and wrote in praise of the dancers, and several Eastern choreographers, among them Ted Shawn, Ruth St. Denis, Sekina Serena and Jean Borlin, composed their own orientalistic fantasy choreographies in the Cambodian spirit. A successful visit to Marseilles was the first of several visits of the royal dance troupe to the West, which firmly established the fame of Cambodian dance in Europe. Otherwise, the reign of King Sisowat was a period of decline for court dance, as the number of dancers were reduced to about 100. Royal Ballet of Cambodia. The Cambodian Royal Ballet used to perform in lit up nighttime performances at Angkor Wat. The elaborately ornamented pointy helmets the dancers wore sometimes weigh up to 15 pounds. It is no wonder then that Cambodian dance emphasizes hand and finger gestures, not footwork. The Royal Ballet of Cambodia was placed on the UNESCO list of the Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity in 2008. UNESCO reports, renowned for its graceful hand gestures and stunning costumes, the Royal Ballet of Cambodia, also known as Khmer classical dance, has been closely associated with the Khmer court for over 1000 years. This art form, which narrowly escaped annihilation in the 1970s, is cherished by many Cambodians. Four distinct character types exist in the classical repertory: Nyang the woman, Nyarong the man, Yak the giant, and Swa the monkey. Each possesses distinctive colors, costumes, makeup and masks. The gestures and poses, mastered by the dancers only after years of intensive training, evoke the gamut of human emotions, from fear and rage to love and joy. The costumes of the female dancers are similar to those of the Thai dancers, except for a few differences, such as the exposure of the right shoulder. Performance. During the era of the French protectorate of Cambodia and before, it was customary for guests of the royal palace to receive a performance of the royal ballet. In propitiation ceremonies, it was performed at Wat Nyom and the Silver Pagoda and Throne Hall of the royal palace. For entertainment, performances were often staged inside the pavilion of royal palaces. In Nyom Phaya, the moonlight pavilion was built for and is still used occasionally for classical dance performances. Nowadays, venues for performances by the Royal Ballet includes the Chenla Theatre and the Chaktomuk Conference Hall, designed by architect Van Melman during the Sanctum Ristronium era. Stage and props. The traditional stage for classical dance drama performances contains a table with a decorative pillow and sometimes laid on an oriental rug or carpet. This table of low stature, called a cray, is constant throughout the performance and thus is used as a prop that represents many places and things. In many dance dramas, characters often yield weapons such as bows, swords, staffs and clubs. In some dances, dancers hold items such as flower garlands, fans and gold and silver flowers as a tribute. Performance of Robam Maker entails devas dancing in leisure and using fans to represent the scales of the mythical Makara, while the goddess Mani Menkala leads on this mimicry with her crystal ball of magic. Movement and gestures. Khmer classical dancers use stylized movements and gestures to convey meaning and tell a story. These gestures are often vague and abstract, while some may be easily understood. Dancers do not sing or generally speak except for some dance dramas where there are brief instances of speech by the dancers. Hand gestures in Khmer classical dance are called khbach. These hand gestures form a sort of alphabet and represent various things from nature such as fruit, flowers and leaves. They are used in different combinations and transitions with accompanying movement of the legs and feet to convey different thoughts and concepts. The way in which they are presented, the position of the arm and the position of the hand relative to the arm can also affect their meaning. Gestures are performed in different manners depending on the character type. Four main types of roles exist in Khmer classical dance. First, Nyarong that is male, second Nyang female, third Yak asuras, 4 Theswa monkeys. These 4 basic roles contain subclasses to indicate character rank. A Nyarong Ek, for example, would be a leading male role, and a Nyang Kaman would be a maiden servant. The subclasses of the 4 main roles all perform in the same type of dancing style of the class they belong to. However, the Yang Ye Yene or female ogre is performed with a feminized dancing style of the male counterpart. Other female character types such as the Apsara, Kinnari or mermaid followed the same dancing style as the Nyang role, but with subtle differences in gestures, the main difference being costume. The No character type, although male, is presented with a different dancing style than the Nya Rong. In the Royal Ballet of Cambodia, most roles are performed by female dancers, but the role of monkeys was transferred to men under the guidance of Queen Sisowat Kosamak. Other roles performed by men include hermits and animals such as horses and mythical lions. Nya Rong Ek, deities, kings or prince, for example Ram. Philang Ek, aide the camp of important characters. Sena Ek, the generals. Second Nyang Ek, deities, queens or princesses, for example Sita and Mani Mekhala. Nyang Rong, noble women or angles, for example the daughters of the tycoon. Sampo Kyo and Sampav Myas in the dance drama Krai Thong. Philing Ek, female at the camp, for example Sophiak Leek. Nyang Kamnan or Philing, female servants or attendants. Third Yek premier orgies or asuras, for example Ravan. Yak Rong, the lesser orgies. Yak Hene, Yakini, for example Surpanakha. Swa, Ne Swa Khen, monkey generals, for example Hanuman. Puk Ken Swa, monkey soldiers. Fifth, other character types: Apsaras, celestial nymph, Kinnari, the mythical Kinnaris, for example Manohara. Macha, mermaids, for example Suvarna Macha. Nog, a special masculine role depicting a negrito. Essay, hermits or rishis, a non-dancing role. Porters, involved loosely in the dance, generally does not dance. Sixth, animals: Garuda and mythical birds, for example Jatayu. Deer, the golden deer in the Ramayana. Piafol, lions, horse. Costumes: classical dance costumes are highly ornate and heavily embroidered, sometimes including sequins and even semi-precious gems. Most of the costumes is thought to be what is representative of what divinities wear. This is reflected in the art style of the post-Angkor period. Various pieces of the costume have to be sewn onto the dancers for a tight fit. Female costume: the typical female or Nyang costume consists of a sempot sarabap, a type of woven fabric with 2 contrasting silk threads along with a metallic thread. The sempot is wrapped around the lower body in a sarong-like fashion, then pleated into a band in the front and secured with a gold or brass belt. In the current style, part of the pleated brocade band hangs over the belt on the left side of the belt buckle, which is a clear distinction from Thai classical dance costumes where this pleated band is tucked into the belt to the right of the belt buckle. Worn over the left shoulder is a shawl like garment called a sbai, also known as the robang khanang, literary back cover. It is the most decorative part of the female costume, embroidered extensively with tiny beads and sequins. The usual embroidery pattern for the sabi these days is a diamond shaped floral pattern, but in the past there were more variations of floral patterns. Under the sbai is a silk undershirt or bodice worn with a short sleeve exposed on the left arm. Around the neck is an embroidered collar called a sarang kar. Jewelry of the female role includes a large filigree square pendant of which is hung by the corner, various types of ankle and wrist bracelets and bangles, an armlet on the right arm and the body chains of various styles. Male costume. Male characters wear costumes that are more intricate than the females, as it requires pieces like sleeves to be sewn together. While being put on, they are dressed in sampot sarabap like their female counterpart, however it is worn differently. For the male or nye rong, the sampot is worn in the chang kben fashion, where the front is pleated and pulled under between the legs, then tucked in the back, and the remaining length of the pleat is stitched to the sampot itself to form a draping fan in the back. Knee length pants are worn underneath, displaying a wide embroidered hem around the knees. For the top, they wear long sleeved shirts and rich embroidering along with a collar or sarang kar around their neck. On the end of their shoulders are a sort of epaulette that is arching upwards like the Indra's bow. Another component of the male costumes are three richly embroidered banners worn around the front waist. The centerpiece is known as the robang muk, while the two side pieces are known as chie kerang. While the monkeys and yakshas characters, they wear another piece in the back called a rebong kreoi. Male characters also wear an X-like strap around the body called a sangwar. Often it is made of gold colored silk, and sometimes it is made from chains of gold and square ornaments, in which the latter is reserved for more important characters. The males also wear the same ankle and waist jewelries as the female, but with the addition of an extra set of bangles on the wrist and no armlets. They also wear a kite shaped ornament called a slok po, which serves as center point of their sangwar. Head dresses, which are several tribe crowns which denote the ranks of the characters. Commonly worn by female characters of the lowest rank is the kabang. It is also worn by Brahmin characters with ornaments around a bun of hair. Divinities and royal characters of the highest ranks wear a tall single spire crown called mokot skat for male characters and a mokot sketre for female characters. Floral adornment. Dancers are traditionally adorned with fragrant flowers, although sometimes fresh flowers are substituted with phlox flowers. The floral tassel is traditionally made of jasminum sambac strung together with Michelia flowers, being either Michelia exbella or Michelia champasha. The Nyang roll wears a rose above the right ear and a floral tassel attached to the left side of the crown, while the Nya Rong roll wears a rose on the left ear and a floral tassel to the right side. Sometimes dancers will wear jasmine garlands fit for the wrist. The Apsara roll is most often adorned with the flowers of either Plumeria obtusa or white cultivars of Plumeria rubra. Sometimes plumerias are tied along with the black of their hair. Theatre of Cambodia, known as Lakon, is composed of many different genres. There are three main categories: classical, folk and modern. Many forms of theatre in Cambodia incorporates dance movement into performances and are referred to as dance dramas. Classical, Lakon Frere Rich Trop. It is main form of classical dance drama performed in Cambodia. It is analogous to the Lakon Nai of Thailand. It is also referred to as Lakon Lung or Lakon Kbach Boran Khmer in Cambodia. This dance drama is the most refined of all theatre in Cambodia and was particularly patronized by royalty. It is heavily stylized with gestures and postures meant to entrance the viewer. Lakon Paul Sre. It is a dance drama akin to the Lakon Call, the performers being female. However, both forms combine classical theatre and dance and are accompanied by the traditional Pinpiet orchestra. Unlike Lakon Call, which use as separate group of narrators, Lakon Paul Sre dancers take turns narrating while other members continue to dance. The dancers often lift their masks and narrate directly to the audience. It is believed to have originated from the kingdom of Udon between 1618 to 1628 during the reign of King Che Cheta II. In 1878, Ms. Chena, a great art teacher from Kon Okthea, came to teach Lakon Paul Sre in Wat Kyan Swe Kreo. Today, one of her students, a 70-year-old woman, Ms. Chia Samut, has taken a lead role in reviving Lakon Paul Sre and currently teaches this drama form to students at Wat Kyan Swe Kreo after having disappeared for more than 40 years. Lakon Barkpat. It is a lost theatre form in Cambodian court. It is believed to have originated in the post-Angkor period. Some older royal ballet dancers also recalled hearing that it was created in the late Angkor period, but little is known as to why it was discontinued. Evidence reveals that the drama was reinstituted during the reign of Udon city by King Norodom in the late 1950s. The form disappeared again in the late 1970s during the time of the Khmer Rouge regime. It is assumed that Lakon Bark was only performed in the presence of royal or noble families due to the dancers' elaborate and expensive costumes and jewelry. As the art form emphasized beauty, character and technique, performers were expected to be not only beautiful but to be able to act, sing and speak well. The ability to sing unaccompanied was specially prized.